Welcome to the Instinctive Influencers podcast, a show where influence becomes one of your tools for success. Now, here are your hosts, Brian Weber and Ed Haley.
Hi, I'm Brian.
And I am Ed.
And this is the Instinctive Influencers podcast. Ed, back at it again. This week, we're going to go over something truly important to both of us, self-care. Before we do that, man, how's life?
Lots of self-care. No, things are good, man. It's, it finally started to warm up around this place. So a couple weeks, we'll have our 3 weeks of summer and then it'll start cooling off again. So yeah, no, it's good. It's really good because the pandemic. So things are opening, depending on your vaccination situation, but things are starting to open up a little more, which makes life more enjoyable in Europe.
Yeah. I monitor your all of your social media platforms, and I noticed that you guys are indulging in some wonderful restaurant entrees. Look very, very delightful.
Yeah.
Yes. As you guys are starting to get your summer, I feel like I'm living on the sun here in El Paso. 100-something degrees, very warm. My wife, she says, we're going to have to keep towels in the car. And I'm like, why? She's like, because I'm sticking to the leather seats. And I'm like, yeah, that's probably a good idea, So, yeah, it's a scorcher here. So, and you got to get up early when you work out in the morning. I've learned that working out in the middle of the day is not something you want to do. So last week I took a little 11-mile bike ride. 1:00 in the afternoon. What an idiot I am, because I got a sunburn. So I wore a shirt with the sleeves are cut off. And Michelle's like, "Hey, let me put some sunscreen on you." Yeah, no problem, thanks. So she got it. But what happens is when you're riding, your position of your body is different when you're leaned forward on that bike. You know how it is when you're leaning forward. So your shoulders come out more. Yeah, I got these perfect little like crescent moon shapes on both sides of my back where I burnt because I decided to go riding for 45 minutes. Yeah. So good ride though. It was definitely something I hadn't done in a while, man. And it's funny, man. When I think about it, it made me feel like when we used to ride together, we used to go hit the back 40 and stuff and just enjoy a nice little stroll around back and forth Campbell. I felt like that here, except for it was really hot. I miss those days.
I keep
Maybe
getting
one
a
day
little,
we can
that
reunite.
That app we were using, the Relive, where you it shows your route and your speed. And if you take pictures, it'll plug those pictures into the route. I've been getting a lot of memories lately in my social media from those rides. Yeah. So I've been kind of.
It would have been this time of year.
Yep.
Yeah.
I've been kind of lazy. I haven't taken the trainer tire off the bike yet to go outdoors, and I really should because it's warm. So I've still been riding indoors just because every time I go, I'm going to ride outdoors, I'm like, I still have the trainer tire. Oh, I don't feel like messing with it today. I'll just ride the trainer. That's what happened this morning, as a matter of fact. Yeah. So.
Yeah, no, it's nice. It's nice. It's definitely it eases the mind, which it's funny. We brought this up. We talk about these different types of things. That's what we're gonna go over today. Is like that self-care stuff. Like, how do you take care of yourself so you can take care of others? What I mean? I mean, you've been doing this for over 22, almost 23 years now, right?
Over that.
Army 23
and
years.
a half.
Because I think you're at 24. 23 and a half. Yeah. Because you're about a year more than me right now. And the both of us, we've been involved in soldiers' lives and stuff. And you don't realize the drain that's on your own body when you're trying to take care of people, trying to help people, just the different stuff. And it's something that has to be talked about because people don't realize it. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah. So I was just sitting here as you were talking, I'm thinking about it, and it's like, and it's not just like a physical drain. Like, honestly, I could think of points in my career, maybe it'll come up today, like mental drain of taking care of a soldier, of going to a hospital to visit a soldier or their family member, and Then there's the physical, of the 18-month deployments to Iraq, and then back to the mental with being away from your family for that time. So it is a lot of different things that you really, through self-care, we're going to kind of talk about how to deal with those things in our lives and how we've personally dealt with them, because it is some challenges.
Yeah. Oh, yes, it is. It is. So we're going to get into, ladies and gentlemen out there listening, we're going to get into the whole idea of what self-care is and what it's not and things like that. But before we do, I get this article I looked up, Ed, because I got really interested in it. There are more articles out about self-care, and it seems like there have been more searches. On another article that I read, there are more searches done like through Google about self-care since 2015. So since 2015, it seems to be the stats about this subject has gone up. There's more people who are curious about it, which I think is a great topic, not for us to talk about with others. Yeah. So so the title of the article: Exercise officially makes you happier than money, according to Yale and Oxford research.
Okay.
I wish I could say this author's name. I'll probably link this article in the show notes. So I wish I could say her name. I can't say her name. And I don't want to butcher it. So here's the article. It's clear exercise has health benefits, both physically and mentally. But what if we could actually prove it was more important to your mental health than your economic status? According to a study carried out by researchers at Yale and Oxford, we may have done just that. In the study published in The Lancet, scientists collected data about the physical behavior and mental mood of over 1.2 million Americans. Participants could choose from 75 types of physical activity, from lawn mowing, childcare, and housework to weightlifting, cycling, and running. Participants were asked to answer the following questions. How many times have you felt mentally unwell in the past 30 days, for example, due to stress, depression, or emotional problems? Okay. The participants were also asked about their income and physical activities. They were able to choose from 75 types of physical activity, from lawn mowing, childcare, housework, to weightlifting, cycling, and running. The scientists found that while those who exercise regularly tend to feel bad for around 35 days a year, non-active participants felt bad for 18 days more on average. In addition, the researchers found that physically active people feel just as good as those who don't do sports, but who earn about $25,000 more a year. Essentially, you'd have to earn quite a lot more for your earnings to give you the same happiness boost effect sports has. Yeah, and so if you notice with that article, what they're talking about is like you have to earn $25,000 more to have the same level of happiness, and it's not that easy to make that much more money. So what they're saying is hey, just exercise. And you do it regularly, and you can increase that happiness that you would have. Which, I mean, to me, I find that fascinating. I don't know about you.
It is interesting. It is, because I mean, my wife and I think there's different. I think when you look at that, Brian, you got to look at, okay, well, if I got a bunch of debt and and I got people calling my home, then maybe the $25,000 is the key to releasing some other stress in my life, But with the working out, like my wife used to tell me, and still does, if I go a couple of days without working out, she's like, would you go to the gym? Because I need you to be in a better mood. And I've noticed it lately. So, I mean, yeah, it makes sense, I guess. I mean, I've never put a monetary value into like the levels of happiness, but definitely I do notice the difference on days when I work out. And that's why so that's a part of the reason I'm a morning guy, because I know that my mood improves and then it carries me through the day, where at the end of the day, I come off a million excuses not to go work out, and the impact is not as long, because if I work out at 5, I'm going to go to bed at 8, 9. So I get that 4-hour window that I can reap the benefits of the workout, where if I go to the gym and work out at 5:30 a.m., it really does carry me through the day. So, and that's, I think there's some value to that. But the money thing is kind of interesting. I didn't think of it that way.
No, I didn't either, and because I do think about so recently I'm here and we have to do formations sometimes at 0-8. Well, actually almost every day, 0-8. And I'm one of those guys, like, I've been programmed, the Army's programming 0-9 is your work call start, and all that stuff. So I've always built my morning schedule and I back plan it so I can get my entire workout in. Now what is happening is I'm finishing part of my workout, doing whatever I have to at work, and then coming home and finishing the rest of it. And I noticed when initially it started, I was in a bad mood because I'm like, oh, I can't finish it, that type of thing. And so it
doesn't make a difference,
I can relate
right?
that, but I didn't. I didn't relate it to the money thing, but I can definitely say that, like, from some of the things I've read so far, that's the type of thing that does help with that. And self-care is not just about the exercise though. There's like 4 different areas we can talk about that we're going to talk about.
Okay.
And it starts at physical, which is what we were just talking about. Then there's emotional, mental, and growth. So, and we're going to go through each one of those. And also we're going to talk about what self-care is not.
Okay.
Right. Do you still have the picture I think I sent you? It was like 4 myths of self-care.
I do. Yeah.
I want to say, let's run down through these. We'll each take 2. We'll run down through these and talk about what self-care, the myths about self-care. You want to hit that first one, brother?
It says self-care is an indulgence, meaningful self-care. So self-care is an indulgence, the myth. It says, actually, meaningful self-care includes making mindful changes and patterns of thought and behavior that do not contribute to your well-being. So really, it's saying, but what I'm getting out at, Brian, is it's saying what self-care actually is you're eliminating that negative from your life, whatever that thing is. You're recognizing it through mindfulness, which is, and then you're making the change to make it better. If you're going to McDonald's every day, right, eating a Whopper a Whopper, not at McDonald's, a Big Mac, in your heart what that's doing to you long-term, health-wise, right? And to me, self-care is when you realize that and you eliminate that from your life. And that's something. So my wife and I, if we're traveling and it's the only option, we may have McDonald's 3 times a year now. Back in the day, I'm ashamed to say we were having McDonald's like every other week. We would have something. It would be a cheeseburger, whatever. But now we look for more viable options and we eliminate it. But it has to be, this is the only thing in this particular airport to eat and we're starving. We got to get McDonald's, which actually just happened to me in Poland, as a matter of fact. So, yeah. So it's just recognizing something that's not good for you and making a change, an effort to change it.
Yeah, I couldn't. You couldn't have said it better than you. So I'll move on to the next one then, because this one, I like this one because it makes you think about it. Because people say, "Oh, well, it's this," but self-care is selfish. So that's a myth, because really, when you make time for yourself and get sufficient rest and exercise, you feel more energetic and will be able to do more for yourself as well as for those around you. And that's the whole point. That's the bigger overarching point I feel like this whole episode's about, is that it's not a selfish act. It's an act to take care of you so you can take care of others. We brought up earlier, you basically said that, hey, taking care of soldiers and stuff. But, I was thinking about it, and it's not just taking care of soldiers. It's taking care of family. Like my wife, she's a homemaker and she takes care of our children when they're not at school and stuff like that. Sometimes she got to break away. She says to me, hey, I got to do something. And she's got to do something for herself. And it allows her that mental release to be able to take care of our children even better, and think about things and whatnot. So I can definitely say that I've never felt that self-care is selfish, but I could see how some people would think, oh, well, you're just being selfish. But it's like one of those things where you have to get away from what it is or do something else. You know what I mean?
think self-care is selfless. That's what I think, Brian. I think self-care, because with just, various examples, but if you know there's some things causing you some health related issues, making that change is allowing you to be there long. For me, I've made some changes in my life over the last few years because I want to walk my daughter down the aisle. I want to see grandchildren. I want to be a pain in my wife's backside when we're in our 90s. I want to drive her nuts. So not doing those things.
Yeah.
So those are impacts to her, because guess what she wants? She wants me to be there with her in our 90s. But if I don't take care of myself, then maybe that's not going to happen.
Right.
So that's selfish. Not taking care of yourself is selfish. That's why I say I think self-care is selfless.
I have to agree with you, man. I definitely do. So let's move on to the third one.
So this one's a tough one too. So self-care is a one-time experience, and this is absolutely a myth. Looking out after yourself is an ongoing practice in building resilience to face hardships and in preventing burnout. I mean, many, 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 many examples, right? Like, like for you, Brian, you can't work out on Monday and say, all right, well, I'm good. I've worked out once. My health's going to improve, right? We know you got to put time into it.
No.
Improving yourself, lifelong learning is another thing. You keep learning things, you keep moving forward, you keep bettering yourself so that you might get a better job or move up into something where you have an opportunity to help your family, or so there's so many different kind of angles you take at with this, but it's not a one and done kind of operation.
No. You talked about that one-time experience, and it's repetitive daily. And I was going to talk about it when we got into the physical part of it, but I'll just bring it up now because I know you do kind of do the same thing with your Apple Watch. Recently, I don't know if you see this. This is one armband that I got out there. It's called Whoop. It's a little bit expensive for my blood, and it's not what I need right now. So what we did, we found this other one Amazon came out with. You can see it's called, and we're not any type of sponsor for, we're not paid at advertising or anything. But it's called Halo, and it does the whole tracking, of the heart rate and all that stuff and physical activity and things like that. And we find, because you get points and whatnot, we find that we're like, okay, I want to try to get this much each day. Try to get this much physical activity going on. And Michelle and she beats me every day, dude. I don't know how she does it. I think she's moving around all the time, and I get stuck sitting sometimes, and I don't get up for a little while. But it's not that one-time experience; it's multiple experiences every day. And one other thing is, like, if you remember, the last Sergeant Major in the Army, Sergeant Major Daly, he used to talk about this, and I loved the saying where it's like PRT is not the most important thing we do in the day, but it's the most important thing we do every day. And that, to me, I think that was key, because it's like, you every day you got to take that little slice, that little chunk of something and do it every day. So it has the overall, of making you feel better. So, let's move on to the fourth and last one before we go into our self-care worksheet. Self-care is time-consuming. Self-care does not require you to take out a huge chunk of time from your busy day. And that comes onto the whole thing that we just talked about. If you're in the military or the Army, you're doing PRT every morning. You're supposed to be doing it every morning. Around we start around 6:30. We last anywhere from 7:30 to 8, sometimes 8:30, whatever. But you should be doing it every day. And I know I used to feel like this. I used to hate showing up. This was a long time ago, because since then I've gotten better about it. But I used to hate showing up because I'm like, it's so boring, so dull. I don't like it. And as I've gained rank throughout, I was able to change the nuances I didn't like and make it more fun, just enjoyable, getting different people involved. But taking that little chunk of my day to do that, it works, amazing results. Or just finding the time, like going for a bike ride, or just playing with your kids or whatever it is, taking that little chunk of time to read a book or read a chapter or whatever. It helps over time.
Yeah, I mean,
what do you think?
Yeah, the different things you could do for self-care, but they take up a block of time, but it's not that significant, and you can adjust your situation to it. So one of the things that I've been trying to do is, so I've been meditating for, I don't know, a couple of years now. I meditate here and there, not every day, but so there's actually some stuff out there about running and mindfulness, combining them. And so when I go for a run, like, I go for a 20-minute run on a Tuesday, and you're looking at the trees and you're noticing that bird, but those things help you to clear your head. And then, the payoff is you're getting into a better mental state to start your day or maybe finish your day. Maybe if you're not like me and you're an end of day person, maybe you go for that little jog and you pay attention to your surroundings and stuff, but you're clearing your head because you had a rough day at work. Maybe it was a stressful day. Maybe your branch chief or your branch manager just would not get off your case today. And this is your chance to kind of clear. Or maybe you're just enjoying the run and you're thinking about those things and going, what could I have done better? And that just improves your mental state, I think, honestly.
Exactly. And, understanding that we're at that point too, though, where our mental state has been challenged. You think about over the past year, Ed, how much has that been challenged?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and here's a great example. I found a great example in one of the articles that I shared with you. It's basically Paula Gil Lopez, PhD, an associate professor and chair of the Department of Psychological and Educational Consultation at Fairfield University in Fairfield, Connecticut, says the need for self-care is obvious. We have an epidemic of anxiety and depression. Everybody feels it, right? So everyone's feeling it. And to be able to use what we're going to talk about today to help you through those periods, that's what's key. But so what is self-care? This is what self-care is. Self-care means taking care of yourself so that you can be healthy, you can be well, you can do your job, you can help and care for others, and you can do all the things you need to and want to accomplish in a day. So it's a daily routine that you may want to go through to help yourself get through that day. Where can I find those small chunks of time, not a huge chunks of time, to help me get through the day? What we're going to go through, Ed, is this worksheet. You and I are part of a Facebook group. I really like the Facebook group because there's a lot of information that's always provided on there. A lot of people's products, things like that. One of the admin individuals, she put this on there, and I'll find a way to share this through our Facebook page, and also hopefully I can do some type of link for it for others to see. But it's a worksheet. I'm going to show this up on the screen. Those of you who are listening, if you want to go to the YouTube channel, it's just the Instinctive Influencers YouTube channel, but you will be able to see what I'm talking about. But this worksheet, I'm going to put it up front. It kind of goes over an example of like the self-care piece. What we're going to do is we're going to kind of go over this, and we're going to talk about these different areas. We're not going to go too far in depth. We're going to go enough in depth to where you have a general understanding of what self-care is and how to do it. Reason being, and Ed and I, we've talked about this multiple times, we're huge advocates on behavioral health, mental health, and taking care of yourself. So you don't have, you're going to have your lows. It's going to happen. You're going to have your highs. It's going to happen. However, how do we stabilize that to keep those on an average? And this is one of those ways because, if you've listened to us long enough, suicide prevention, that's a big topic that we are very much into talking about. Not that we like it, it's just we want to support it. Behavioral health. We did a great episode with Pamela Holtz, Captain Pamela Holtz, last year before. She was a behavioral health doc in Korea with me. She was in my unit, and I thought that was great. And then we just on multiple occasions, we talk about like how do we take care of ourselves, and that's what this is about. So, Ed, let's dive into this. We're going to talk about self-care activity ideas. We're going to start with the physical, and then we'll move across. Starting with physical, exercise. How does that help us?
Oh man, I mean, such a stress relief, and I guess really doesn't matter if it's weight training or cardio but there's a huge release, and then there's some release of some chemicals in your body that come from it, but then when you look at the cardio side, I mean, a nice bike ride gives you a chance to really think and clear your head. So for me, like when you talk physical, and one thing I'm sitting here thinking about too is like in the current, we're recovering from this pandemic, but in the time of the pandemic, like there's so much in here that you could have developed during that pandemic. I know for me, my exercise routine got more aggressive over the last, a little bit over a year now. So, but that helps, right? That helps to deal with the fact that you can't go anywhere and you're stuck in the house. And I mean, I've tried it, little yoga, little running, little biking, lots of weightlifting. Like I've tried a little everything over the last year, exercise wise. And then, I just think that it helps. It's a good release. And like I said before, Brian, my wife would encourage me, "You're super grumpy cat. Can you go to the gym today, please?" Like, so she knew.
Yeah, definitely. And it just doesn't have to be the physical. Doesn't just have to be exercise. It could be other things which we're going to cover. Yeah. However, exercise is known to release endorphins. Yep. Endorphins are one of those happy drugs. Here in about, I'd say 3 episodes from now, we're going to cover those happy drugs that our body produces and how you achieve those. And that's going to be that'll be a great episode for others to listen in on. However, exercise is a good one. Another good one that's under this list, and I've found this to be so true, is that balanced diet. The way
that's how I thought you were going, but yes.
Yeah.
So but then
you come somewhere else.
Yeah.
But then
you can tie.
I know which one.
Can tie balanced diet back into this pandemic and deal with the pandemic, right? Because the restaurants are closed.
Yeah.
So that means you have an opportunity to prepare your meals at home, where maybe you were going out to eat 2 days a week, and now those 2 days I gotta find something. Well, why not make a meal, a healthier meal? It gives you an opportunity to look out for your overall health and maybe make a lifestyle change in how you eat. Yes. This is another one that my wife and I have not mastered, but we have gotten better. And the air fryer also helps because I still get the fried feel, but a little bit healthier options. But we've included, included more vegetables and more, fruits. And I mean, every day before I go out to do whatever I'm going to do physical exercise wise, I have an apple and I have some natural peanut butter with it. And then I go, because you need that fuel, right? And then I go out and do my thing. So your diet, improvement in your diet is a good opportunity. And you do feel better. You do notice a difference in how you feel.
Yes. Absolutely. I would definitely say that balanced diet is what it's kind of like. How do you fuel your body? How do you find the right stuff to kind of help you through? And one of my things was sometime it was quite a few years back. This is before I met you. I had acid reflux real bad, Ed. And I found that it was those oily foods, like you talk about those eating outs and stuff, that was causing all that, because the way your stomach tries to process things and it produces more acid, all this stuff. And I found that once I decreased those fried foods, it allowed my stomach to process food better. So, it's finding that balanced diet. 'Cause, I mean, don't get me wrong, I still go to Chick-fil-A. Matter of fact, I just went yesterday. But I don't go everywhere.
We don't have one.
You know what I mean? Like, it's like a treat. Yeah. I know. I'm sorry. Maybe I ship one to you. And another thing too, we were just talking about it. One of our favorite places, both of ours, is to go to Hattie B's in Nashville.
Yes.
And man, they've got branches all over the place. But if you eat Hattie B's every day, I promise you, your stomach's gonna be a little messed up because of all the fried food. You know what I mean? But no offense to Hattie B's. I love their food. They are probably one of the best Nashville hot chicken places I've ever been to.
Definitely.
Right? But you have to be careful. You got to balance that diet. And something as simple as, you see, I've been doing it the entire time. Drinking water. Drink water every day. Drink water all the time. I can't stress enough how important water is. That's part of that balanced diet because, one of the we used to have. Do you remember? It was first Sergeant Anderson, now Sergeant Major Anderson. One of the things he told me that he used to do, he probably still does, is he used to, every morning when he gets up, as soon as he wakes up, he has a bottle of water, one of the small bottle of water right beside his bed. He drinks that whole water before he stands up out of the bed to help that body to do the processing. That's part of that, So a balanced diet, man. And I think you can testify to what that balanced diet can do for you.
Yeah. So, coupled with, so all these things, you couple them together and the impact can be really great. Like, I've shedded a few pounds over the last few months, based off trying to balance my diet. Like, again, it's not perfect. Like, I'm going to eat pizza. That's just going to happen. But I also am really bad for,
yes.
I ate pizza tonight. Okay. Tomorrow I'm paying the piper. When I go to the gym, it's going to be death by cardio. And I'm going to make sure that I pay the price for eating that pizza. So I think it was one day I had pizza, and the next day I literally went in and did an hour on the elliptical plus a 30-minute run. Hey, it's the price you pay. You want pizza? This is what you do. So also still a balancing act, but the benefits are there. You can get them.
Oh yeah, it is. And pizza is a must for my house. We love pizza. So we're not going to do every little one here we go as we go through it, Ed, but I definitely want to hit upon the next one that I want to hit upon. I think you and I both we can testify how important it is. The physical is the grooming. So self-grooming.
That's what I thought you were going to say.
Yeah. How I love to make sure I have the right barber and get my hair done right and get the right fade going on. And, after a good haircut, you always walk out. It's funny how you walk out of, let's say, the barber shop different than when you walked in. You know what I mean? And I'm not talking about just looking different, but feeling different. Like, man, that looks good, Grooming is one of those things that helps with that self-care because you feel more confident, right? So it's not that, in the military, we have to get haircuts.
Yes.
We have to. So, why not make it a purpose, to feel good about that haircut or to, and to notice those things. Because when you notice those things, you can kind of build upon it, right? You can build upon the happiness that comes from it. How do you feel, Ed, when you get that
funny
haircut?
Because I just got one yesterday, and so I usually wear a hat into the barber shop because I need one. And then here right now, currently, they got to wash your hair. Yeah. First of all, having somebody wash your hair is kind of fantastic, also. But then when the barber so the barber I had before this one, she would cut your hair, but I get it cut on base, so kind of like cut and go. But she did a great job. She was an amazing barber. So when she left, the barber I have now, she'll cut, and then she also puts gel, and she takes her time and combs your hair. And so I will go in with a hat, but when I leave, I carry my hat in my hand the rest of the time we're there at the exchange, at the post exchange, because I don't want to put my hat on because I feel fantastic about the haircut I got and the effort that she put in. And I love a barber who takes their time. Anybody who's ever been to a military barber or knows they haven't, it is mass production. Like, it's mass cut. Cut a hair, next. Cut a hair, next. For them to stop to take time to, like trim up your eyebrow or whatever, that's pride in their job. And I feel good about that. And then when I leave, I know I'm looking good. Get a little strut, little Ric Flair strut going down the hallway.
Yeah. Oh no. Yeah. It's funny that you brought up the eyebrow thing because when my last barber in Colorado, Chloe, she did a great job also. And every once in a while, it was like every other haircut, she would say, "Hey, do you mind if I trim your eyebrow?" I'm like, "Yeah, go ahead." And I'm thinking, I must be getting old because never before when I was younger did anybody ask me if I needed to trim my eyebrows. Or she would tweeze hair out of my ear, and I'm like, okay, not bad, So, but you don't realize what that does for you mentally, right? And that's one of the things we're gonna get into here in a few minutes. So let's move from the physical column. Now, Ed, let's move to the emotional column. Go ahead and pick one out of there, man. Let's discuss that one.
Man, this is tough to pick just one.
It is because I looked at it.
So I'm actually not great at this one. I'm gonna go mind dump, and I guess it depends on what they're meaning by mind dump. So my wife, when she's at work and she has a rough day, she wants to come home and kind of vent those things, and that's what I associate as mind dumping, because it probably makes her feel better to just get that out there. Mm-hmm. And I've gotten better. Before, my problem was she would mind dump and I would start offering solutions, and she's like, I'm not looking for solutions, I'm looking for you to show some empathy, which is a big weakness for me, by the way. Like a mind dump, and I've gotten better over dinner, and you just vent your frustrations. Like my boss is amazing. He is my civilian, but he's also in his 60s. And there's some things about him, we have a calendar in our internal sync slide deck. We have a calendar on our joint organizational mailbox. And then he has a dry erase board calendar next to his desk. And that is the only one he goes off of. So like we're in meetings and he's going, we can come to, we can go to Romania for these 3 days, and he'll commit to the Romanians. And I'm like, hey, like we're going to be in Poland for that week. What? When did that happen? It's on the calendar. And so we even print the slide calendars for him. He asked for them to be printed. We printed them, and he's still like, and then he goes like this. He looks at his wall and he's like, it's not on my calendar. And too easy. So this week I put it on the calendar. So the same way I just vented that to you, venting that to my spouse is like a mind dump. Like I'm frustrated, and it's not that he's bad. It's just that he's older,
right?
And he's set. He's very hands. He prints everything. Like they're a full forest that he's killed, I'm pretty sure. So it's just a frustration, but being able to get that off your chest, it just feels better. And that's something I'm working on with my wife, is that when she does it, not to offer, hey, this is what I would do. No. That's terrible. Kind of listen to her, maybe say, well, how'd you feel? Like that you were frustrated, huh? Like something, but it gives her a chance. And that's self-care. It's getting it off her chest instead of leaving it all bottled up and getting all tight and exploding sometime.
Yep.
So,
I'm
taking advantage of
visuals. I am about to also. So the mind dump, there's different types of them. No, there's different types of mind dumps. Like you're talking about, like the just talking about things, right? And just letting everything out and talking about it. Mine is a little bit different. You see this right here? It's my Nintendo Switch. Sometimes I just like to sit on this couch that's behind me and just play video games. And to me, that's a sort of a mind dump where it's like, I'm not thinking about anything else except for I'm playing this game, right? And so what it does is it takes my mind away from all that stuff. That's one of my methods, because I find it, I don't know about you, I can't read and do a mind dump. Like I need something that's like actively engaging me physically and mentally, because if I'm reading and something has happened, I will think about that same thing as I'm reading, and I may not pay attention to what I'm reading at and anything like that. So there are certain things that I have to do to help me do that mind dump that you're talking about, man. So good point. I want to bring up the very next one. Actually, I like this one as self-care, as an emotional self-care, because you don't think about it as, this is about taking care of yourself, but you wanted to take care of other people. But just saying no sometimes, saying no to stuff, that is a form of self-care emotionally. And sometimes it's like, how do you say no but not make the other person feel like you're saying no to them. And I like to use it as like that. We've talked about it before where, you're bringing me your problems, bring me some solutions also. Yeah. That's my form of saying no to something. Like, I'm not doing this. I need you to do it because it's for you. And then you bring me what you can't handle. Right. So I'm saying no in a way, but sometimes you can get overburdened.
Yes.
Right. You got like 1,000 tasks going on and somebody else brings you another one and you're just like, oh my goodness, how am I going to get all this done? It's just saying, no, hey, I'm sorry, I can't do that right now. You're important, but I've got X, Y, and Z to get done.
Yes.
And to me, saying no is extremely important.
So that is absolutely, your reasoning is even perfect, but I also prioritize, right? So again, going back to my boss, he'll ask you to do things like read an email before he sends it, and because he's my boss, I'll usually not say no to him. Right. I'll carve a piece of time, like a chunk. But if you're somebody outside of that, my or part of the organization, and I'm swamped, and especially I hate when somebody calls and says, hey, can you tell me this thing? And I know that they have it, then it's easier to say no to them. But sometimes you just got to tell them, look, I'm super busy right now, but I'm going to put it on my board and I'll try to get to it. If I don't, though, you should probably still work through it yourself and then call me back at the end of the day. And if I have a chance, I'll get to whatever that thing is. With what we do a lot of times, it's like, hey, can you ask X country, can they give us this thing? And so, yeah, I'll whiteboard. And I do. Yeah. I have a giant whiteboard in my office and I'll whiteboard that thing and then I'll do what I need to do. And then at the end of the day, right before I go home, I'll look and I may even call back and say, hey, Sergeant Major Weber, did you get an answer on that thing? And you'll say, oh yeah, you know what? I figured it out. This was the avenue. Or if you don't tell me, I will actually say, so how did you get that? Like how did you work that through? So I know for next time to help me and my organization improve. So I think that that's important. And it's crazy because I didn't know this until recently. I had a senior tell me. So what has happened is I have developed a reputation as somebody who will get back to you. So even though it's the end of the day and I'm pretty sure you've worked it, I will at least give you that courtesy and say, well, because then I'm not worried about it all night. And that's, again, back to self-care. And my emotion is now I don't have to worry about that thing because I've kind of mind dumped it. I kind of called, verified. You said, yeah, I'm good. Boom. And if you say I'm not, then you and I will have a chat. And during that conversation, maybe it'll come out. But that follow-up to me, because I'm telling you, I am really bad. If I go home and I'm like, oh man, Sergeant Major Brian called me and I didn't look into it and I don't know if he found his answer. Man. And it will aggravate me all night, man. It will. So I think it's good for your emotional, you just be able to follow back. But saying no, like I know, Brian, some of the worst leaders I've ever experienced in my career are the ones who don't want to say no because they want to look good by compromising or sacrificing their team. So I have my team and I'm working them to death and I don't care because I look good and I don't say no. So those are usually some of the worst leaders out there, the ones that just will not say no. And I feel like as a Sergeant Major or a future Sergeant Major like you, if I said to you, hey, Sergeant Major, I can't do that and here's why, and then me and you would have a discussion and you may make me see, yes, you can, and here's how. Or you may say, you know what, you're right, but you got to have a conversation. Everything goes back to communication. And I just ranted on that one. That must have been a good one for me.
Yeah. No, and I knew that would be one that hit you because even when we worked together, how many different projects were brought to each one of us, and we have to pick and choose what we can get involved in.
Yeah.
Or we can, like you said, I like what you said there, where the follow-up. The follow-up's great. Yeah. Because I may not be taking care of a problem, but I'm going to do a follow-up on it. It's funny about that. I just literally, no joke, Ed, I just replied to 2 separate emails 2 days ago that was from soldiers from my previous unit when I was the first sergeant there. One of them was a guy who asked for a letter of recommendation. And so what did I do? I said, hey, give me the example of what you think you need for that. and then I'll put in my information. So I did kind of put a little bit of ownership on him to get me the information, and then I will doctor it up. So I didn't say no, but I also wanted him to do it. The second one was really just a guy saying, hey, thank you for helping me out with getting my letter recommendations from the battalion commander and the commander, because I made it into flight school.
Oh, wow.
And he was selected. And I'm like, well, that's cool, man. But I didn't, when it came to his, it really was just me linking him up with certain people.
Yeah.
I didn't do anything physically for him, but it's that, I learned to pick and choose where I can use my time. So I'm not completely exhausting my time. So saying no is big. You want to pick another one out of that column before we move over to the next section?
Well, let's see. I will. I'm going to pick kindness, and we've talked about it on the show before. Kindness can take various different forms, but I mean, I'm going to tell you, I don't know how many emails I send in the course of the week to embassies or our admin section and say, hey, thank you for. It's really thank you for doing your job, but I don't put that. I put, hey, thank you for your help. I really appreciate it. If you ever need anything from me, just reach out, without hesitation. But it makes them feel better, but it does make you feel better because you're showing gratitude to somebody. You're being kind. You don't have to be a jerk to everybody, which is something I had to learn, because before the academy, my wife says the academy changed me, because before the academy, I had a reputation for being there's a profanity for your backside. Yeah. We'll just say that. And at the academy, I kind of got out of that.
Also known as a donkey.
Yeah, I was a donkey. Yeah. Let's go with that. I was a donkey, Sergeant Donkey. And now from the academy, and then now here, because I deal with people at such a higher level, like I definitely am not going to not have my moments. Sometimes I have to stand firm, and I get arguments. I told that story about the guy arguing with me. Sometimes I have to stand firm, and it might lead me to be a donkey because you just don't want to listen to what I'm saying, because I'm not saying what you want. So, but kindness goes so far, and it's not just for your self-care, but you're actually looking out for them, because maybe that guy or gal is having the worst day of their career. And then now, like they're this specialist, right? Not even NCO. But this master sergeant took the time out of their day to say, hey, thank you for doing, something. My S1, the private in my S1. Hey, sergeant, normally we don't do that. We just point you to this part of our website. But you know what? You said you're having difficulty downloading that form. I'm going to send it to you. So he sends it to me, and I immediately email back, hey, private, blah, 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 Schmugatelli. Hey, I really appreciate you taking a minute to send this to me. Thank you. I apologize for bugging you today. Boom. That private is saying, wow.
Yeah.
That's a master sergeant. He could just told me, hey, do it. But he didn't. And it's just, random acts of kindness, man.
Yeah. Random acts of kindness, that it produces oxytocin and allows you to just continue on through your day. How many times you do something good, or so you see somebody do something good, and somebody says, "Oh, they're just doing that because they want something in return."
Absolutely, yeah. Quid pro quo.
No, not really. You're automatically going to get something in return, and it's a chemical produced in your body that allows you to feel better. And that's part of that emotional, what you said, kindness builds upon the emotional that allows us to get better each day. So it's like, and I think I've said it multiple times on here. I even said it at my change of responsibilities in my speech, where I talked about Sergeant Major Brian, and one of the things he used to tell us all the time. He actually later on, it's funny, I sat in his office, and we'll probably get into more about, like, I got to work for him again, and I thought it was really freaking awesome. But he's added to this saying, however, it was always like, there's 300 people, let's just say 300 people in this organization. If every person in this organization does one good thing for somebody else a day, that's 300 good things a day, multiply that, blah, 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 and that's what it is. It's about doing something good, and that's part of self-care. Right. Learning to say no sometimes is a kindness and doing something for somebody else, right? Because now they're learning on their own, right? So, yeah, great one. We're going to move on to the mental piece of this, right? And there's multiple ones in here. The mental piece, I'm gonna jump straight down to the fourth one.
Don't you take the easy route.
Because the fourth one I like, and it's
don't you take the easy route.
I got to because
all right, go ahead, Brian. We're gonna have a good discussion.
It's the one we're doing.
Yeah.
It's podcast mental. It talks about how do you do self-care mentally. It could be listening to podcasts. In our case, it could be creating a podcast for those that do want to hear what we have to say. But I will tell you, so previously, Ed, when we were working at Campbell together and stuff, and I lived over an hour away. Every day I would drive an hour and some change to work and then an hour and some change back home. So that's 2 hours of my life. When I first started doing it, I would just listen to music or whatever was on the radio. And I would just kind of get lost in thought. Then I started changing my habits and I started listening to podcasts, which really is I would say is the birth of this podcast in itself. But I was starting to listen to I listened to Jocko. I listened to Order of Man. I listened to the Passive Income Guy. I had all kinds of Lead X when you taught me that one. All these different ones. And what it would do, and I wouldn't go like through in order sometimes. Sometimes I'd be like, oh, I want to hear about this. So I picked this or whatever. I wouldn't just go like episode 1, episode 2, but I would, whatever I want to hear about. And what it would do is it made me think about those things actively on the way to work. So that way, and I would try to use some of those methods or ideas that I heard about during the day. And it just kind of helped me mentally kind of prepare. Or going home, same thing, right? Maybe I'm listening to something about family and doing things with family, and I'm going home. So now what I'm doing is I'm mind dumping what we talked about earlier. I'm doing a mind dump, but I'm also engaging something that I'm about to go do. So I'm not taking work home with me. That's one of those things that I used to struggle with, and I've gotten better with is don't take work home with you, right? And it allows us to not you don't, if you had a bad day, you don't want to take out that bad day on the people that, you're going home to. And so that podcast, that helped me out. But what it also did, Ed, was it told me, it's like, man, this is really good. And I've had a lot of experience, and I got this really good friend who's had a lot of experience. We should do the same thing. And that was the birth of the Instinctive Influencers podcast, was doing that very mental thing, that self-care mental listening. And it's like, now we're producing. So what are your thoughts, man? Because I know you want to talk about this.
It's so definitely, I think podcasting it's a good tool for when you talk about self-care. I didn't think of it until I saw this. But mentally, you can go in there. I mean, honestly, podcasts can lead to some of these other things too. So for me, which is going to be the next category is growth, but there's one called Coffee Break, and you learn German or you learn French. And every episode of the podcast is they got different languages, but they just go over some common phrases in the languages. So now you're growing as a person listening to that podcast. So that's a next category. But so there's that. But with this, let's think about, Brian. So we came back last show, right? Was our big return, and we were off for all that time. And just think about the like coming back last week. What did it feel like to you? Like, to me, it was like, wow, that was great. I knew I missed it, but I didn't know to what level I missed doing it. And so again, that ties into kind of the self-care. It's like, wow, it's a release. It's, the 30 minutes before the show or more, excuse me, problem with editing. I can't just hit the mic and be like mute. But we do those 30 minutes. So that gives me a chance to vent. And, you vent, I vent, and then we share experiences and like, wow, okay. So that before the podcast, then we get into the podcast and we have these discussions. And then for me, I sit here and think about like, who do I think's listening? Like, did I know? So I think about people whose lives I like to impact and influence. So I think about my daughter and I know my wife because she made fun of me because we didn't say lifelong learning last week. So I said it twice this week. But my wife and my siblings. So these people who are important in my life, I think about them and like, ooh, I wonder if this will help one of them. And so there's that part to it too, that self-care. It's kind of like a therapy. It's just like getting things off your chest, but getting it off through this vessel of a podcast.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I jumped straight to that one because I felt like that's a key one.
Yeah.
And I know there's a lot of people who are listening to us who listen to other podcasts, and they'll probably agree with us, and I'd love to hear what their thoughts are on that. So you want to pick one of those mental ones before we get pushing over to the growth?
You talked about, I can't recall her name, the doctor from Korea, Dr. Holtz. That's it.
Pamela Holtz.
So when we had her on, I went and looked, and there are some fantastic apps for meditation through the Veterans Affairs Office, and there's some other mindful awareness. Those apps are fantastic, and you really do. It does take some practice. Initially, your mind's going to wander, but then it's cool because then they're like, well, that's expected. That's going to happen. And then now I'm actually reading a book called Warrior Meditation. And it also is another kind of way to meditate and to work through some things and to work on your breathing. And so for self-care, I think those, I have the new Apple Watch, right? So I can take my EKG and all that stuff, and you can see my heart rate go down post meditation as opposed to where it was before. So that's health benefits from meditation. Yeah, and then just clearing your head, man. In the sauna is a little rough. I do like to meditate in the sauna, but you can't do long sessions because I'm gonna tell you, a little long sesh in the sauna, and you're really only thinking, "Am I gonna melt in here?" Or so. I have done anything over about 5 to 10 minutes, and I'm like, "Oh, you're only thinking about how miserable you are." But that also gives you a chance to use your awareness and be like, "Okay, I recognize that feeling of being I'm overheated, and it teaches you to deal with that feeling, recognize it, and let it go," which is a big thing with mindfulness. So it does work. But yeah, meditation is a good one. Actually, today I told you I went on a run, and so I went on a run and I got about a mile and a half out, and I just paused my run and sat on a little bench and just kind of sat and thought in nature, kind of looking at the grass, looking at the trees, kind of a meditative state, and then ran back. And the run back was significantly faster pace than the run out. So I say meditation did it. Not that I got to rest and stretch, but meditation. So yeah, it's a good thing.
I was gonna say it was because you needed a rest, is what it was, buddy.
Sometimes you just gotta stretch.
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah. No, meditation is that's definitely one of those things that I've been considering to kind of take up a little bit more of, that I haven't done as much of. I think because it is a mental, it kind of just gets you out there. So we talked about podcasts, we talked about meditation, and I'm not going to go over any of the other three, but I'll bring them up. Journaling is another one they talk about on here. If you're spiritual, doing a daily devotional, that helps out, or even just reflecting upon the day, doing a reflection. Those are all mental self-care routine things that somebody could do on the daily, and I would try to do daily. Let's move to our final block, growth, before we start closing the show out. Growth. Let's see here. Growth. I like the second one down. New skills. Learning new skills, understanding new things. To me, Ed, understanding new skills and building upon what I already know, that is it always feels good, right? When you say, "Oh, wow, I didn't know that, and I learned this." There's just certain things. For instance, i.e., I'm talking about the podcast, and there are multiple things. You actually have a different camera view this week than you had last week, and I'm working to do the same thing. You learned that you could use your GoPro, and you have the skills for that now, that you're using your GoPro as your camera, and I'm going to try to do the same thing. But as I was doing that, I was going through all this research. Like I climbed down the rabbit hole to learn all these things. And then I learned about lighting, right? Lighting of a video and all this stuff, because now Ed, you got to get you some little LED lights so we can see that face better. But the lighting, that's a key thing for videos. And so, like, you can see I'm a little bit brighter than I was last week, but I learned all these different things, like how you light things right and set the camera angle at the right angles where people are seeing what you want them to see and all these things. And then we even talked about like how, we'll do a session of the podcast. We're going to use our whiteboard. So maybe we'll move the camera at different angles. But these are new skills of understanding of the podcasting that it helps me, one, break away from the norm. So I think it's physical, emotional, and mental and growth, because I'm learning how to do something new. And it's just one new thing. Maybe it's a new type of exercise. I'm deep diving into learning that new skill. We've talked about it before. Like, I was definitely afraid I'd say about 2 years ago, I was definitely afraid to do a snatch, Olympic lift, the snatch, right? Because I was always worried I was going to hurt myself. But then, I had some guys that I was working with in Korea, and they're saying, "Oh, do this, do this, do this," and then you go through this routine. And as I'd increase it, and I become better and better and better, and then I could add weight to it instead of just doing a PVC pipe. I could do different things. But that's that new skill you feel better about when you learn it, or understand it. So what do you got there, brother?
I think that is important, and it gives you a little more confidence too, right? And then it can be all kinds of different skills. It can be as simple as how to use Microsoft Teams more effectively, or one of those things. And then when people start coming to you and asking questions about this new thing, like, that's pretty fantastic. So one of the ones I picked up through that podcast is I have a few phrases I know in German, and when I go through the gate and and I tell the Germans to have a good weekend, and then they say, "Oh, thank you, likewise," in German, it feels good that they have an interaction. My wife and I, you said we been going to some restaurants since things opened up. And last time we went to my favorite pizza place, Milano's, I ordered my meal completely in German. Bad German, but German. But that is a skill, and they recognize that. So it was not great German, but it was okay. But yeah, so that new skill is something to be proud of. Like, I'm not fluent, but do I speak? Well, a little bit, ambition, as they would say, a little bit. So yeah, no, and then like I said, and you see a lot at work too, right? Like, when you first started being an instructor, we were not good. When we were going through the course, and then we got over to the other side, we started teaching. And the first time you ever taught law of land warfare, you were probably not good, and you probably had people, it was a snooze fest. So you figured out how to make a boring class more exciting, right? And that's a skill. And then somebody says, "Well, I hate teaching this." One of your guys that worked for you say, "Well, I hate teaching this." And you say, "Well, have you ever done this?" And I know that you do this because, Brian, you've done this to me. You say, "Well, have you thought about teaching it like this and taking this approach?" Right? When we were doing squad movements, people were starting to bring in army men and giving the soldiers a stack of army men. You're like, "Why are you giving them toys?" "Well, watch this. Put them in this formation. There's an ambush here. What do you do?" But you were innovative, and you had a skill for innovating how you instructed, which made you a better instructor. I'm really jealous, by the way. They've given a lot of senior instructor badges since we left. Very jealous of that. I gotta go back just to get that.
I noticed. Yeah, I'm still on their
I
Facebook.
am too.
Yeah, I'm still on their Facebook page, and I noticed the same thing, brother. Yeah, I'm like, man, I need to get one of those. So who knows? Maybe I stay here long enough at the academy, I get to do that. So, yeah, the new skills is a big thing. Which one was it that you wanted to pull out of that growth column that you felt like is an area that we could work on?
Well, I got to tell you, my friend. So this year, my wife and I, thank you, COVID, have developed a new hobby. And what we have here, for those who are privileged to watch, is basically I have a table with a table on it full of Lego parts, because I did not put together the 1989 anniversary Batmobile properly, and I had to disassemble the entire thing. And my wife is now helping me put it back together. But over the last year, because of COVID, we have really we enjoy putting together Legos. We did a haunted house on Sundays in Germany. Nothing's open anyway. So what we would do is if anybody's ever done Lego, they come in bags and they're numbered. And so we had this big haunted house, and what we did is she did bag 1, then I did bag 2, then she did bag 3, and we did it, and we built this haunted house over 2 Sundays together, completely together. So it's something to interact, and oh man, being able to interact with your spouse like that's self-care at its finest. Like that's an enjoyable memory. Now we have this giant haunted house, and we look at it and we know we took time and did that together. So new hobbies, and it don't have to be Lego, obviously. I mean, the gym is a hobby. I just started back to running in March. That's a hobby. So getting out there and doing something you're not comfortable with. The GoPro is a hobby. I have the book and I've been reading, and I've actually taken some other videos. By the way, never attach a big, it's called the Fetch, the dog harness. Don't put that on a little dog that it's too big for, because I have a video where she's walking and the camera just does this the whole time. So I'll share that with you, Brian, so you too can get nauseous watching it. But so those are hobbies, and it just lets you get away. It takes you, when we do Lego, we get away from the politics on Facebook, or the drama that you have at work, somebody has at work, or just your workload at work. I have an incredible workload over the next 45 days, and coming home on the weekends, it's an opportunity to sit down with my wife and spend some time with her and kind of get away from that workload. So all good for your long-term health.
Yeah. No, Hobbies is a great selection there, Ed. Those are the things that allow us to escape daily life. And that's why I think that's what, that growth helps us growing. I find that, this podcast this is a hobby, we're hobbyists of sorts. And so I feel like mentally and growth is what columns this links up to. And this is a weekly thing. This is not daily, but maybe daily I'm looking into some articles or reading about it. And that's what helps me. There's 3 other areas under the growth. We're not going to cover each one because we're trying to keep it under an hour, which we haven't. We're already at over an hour. But the other areas under growth were habits, right? So our habits they create those norms throughout the day. Socializing is a big one, right? So how we communicate back and forth and with others, and then goal setting. I love goal setting. I think goal setting is one of those things that really, it kind of makes you want to achieve more. So you set this goal and you're building. Ed, as we close this out, though, one of the things that I noticed and I really liked about this particular worksheet was, if you didn't know, for instance, exactly how to answer each one of these, or how to find the right thing that's going to help you, that you can say, okay, self-care, this is what I'm going to do. They give you these little prompts, right? And the prompts I thought were great, man, that I find that some people it may work for, some people it may not. I don't know, but until they try it. Those prompts, here's one of them. I feel confident and empowered when I blank, right? So it's like, what is it that you do that makes you feel that confident or empowered, right? And another one, I get irritated when I don't have time to
exercise.
Blank. I can tell you right now, boom. Yes. And that was the same for both of us. I get, that's how I feel. Like, that's a good answer to that one. But what that did was you pulled it right out. You knew that was your physical self-care. You were able to say that. And there's other people out there, like, they probably feel that same way when they say, I don't have time to read. Right? So, I feel the most guilty when I procrastinate on blank. Mine's homework.
Yeah.
Or doing something for my child, So, yeah. And then the last one they have here, I feel bad about myself when I put off doing, which to me is almost like procrastinating, but put off doing blank, right? So if you can answer these questions or you answer these prompts, you're probably going to figure out what is your physical, your emotional, your mental, and your growth for that self-care. Self-care is one of those things that we have to do, and on that same worksheet, Ed, when we look at it, so what it does is it gives you general ideas in the top block. The second block, it talks about my self-care activity ideas. So these are the ideas you come up with. And then the very bottom one, that's the important one. That's the one I really like seeing. That very bottom one, it's the routine, the actual routine. So is it a daily activity? Is it weekly activity? Is it monthly? Because you can have all those. And those are the things that we have to do. Other than that, man, I don't have much more to talk about with the self-care. I would tell people that we've got to look into this. I said it earlier, since 2015, those who are trying to figure out more about self-care, it has grown by half. So over half of the searches on Google itself, it's doubled since then, since 2015, because that's how interesting it is. So as we close out, Ed, what is it that you would like to say, bring to the audience attention about this self-care?
I think it's important. I think it's like anything too, doing a self-assessment, self-care, you got to be honest too, right? You got to be honest don't just go, I want to do this thing because it's the trend. Like, does it really help you at all? And does it bring you joy? Does it make you feel better? Does it make you, better able to take care of the people around you? And self-care is not selfish. It's selfless.
No. Yes. Yeah, you're exactly right, man. All right. Well, Ed, obviously, I have to go take care of some business. So I'm not going to be able to stay here and chat like we always do. However, I think we're getting the point for this. I do want to remind people that this is going to be coupled with a show we're going to do about three episodes from now. And that's dealing with basically, and I'm looking up everyone because I'm looking at my whiteboard where I've written it all out, but it's going to be happiness chemicals and how to get them. I think this will link very well with that. And we're going to kind of go into that more. Ed, if people wanted to know more about us or know anything they can about us or just kind of interact with us, what is it they got to do, man?
They would find us at the Instinctive Influencers website. They could also find us on all social media platforms at 101 Influence. That's 101 Influence, where they can interact, join the Facebook group. It is a closed Facebook group. However, if you just answer the questions, then somebody from our team will grant you your access, and then you can go in there and check some things out, post a motivational meme, what have you. So that would be excellent. And then, and then find Brian and myself on our Twitter accounts as well. We can use Twitter. Everybody seems to be using Twitter. Even the Sergeant Major Army is using Twitter now. So these are the different ways that you can find your instinctive influencers.
Ed, something I wanted to add to this, because I know you're kind of programmed the way we used to do it. But we've added YouTube. With that YouTube, you can give us a thumbs up on YouTube for the video, and you can subscribe. They just hit that subscribe button, and then they'll know when a new episode comes out because it'll pop up for them. So thumbs up, click that button, and then hit that button that says subscribe, and then you'll know about it. And as we close this out, man, I want to say, hey, thanks, man. I appreciate it. I love talking about this. This is one of those topics. I would like to hear more from people about self-care and their thoughts on it. So if you would, go to that closed Facebook page, add your comments on what you think, where you think it should go, for others, or how can we help others learn more about it. And even on the YouTube channel. In the YouTube channel, you can leave comments at the bottom of the video. So add what you think about self-care and maybe your methods. What is it that helps you? So anything else from you, big man?
I think that's it for this episode and this week, Brian.
Yeah, exactly. So next week, we will get into an interview with a good friend of mine. He just retired. He literally just retired last week. He's a retired Sergeant Major. He was actually my neighbor. And we're going to go over some things. The big topic that I want to hit upon, we're going to do the interview with him. So we'll hit upon our questions, but the big thing is going to be about leadership philosophy and working on that. It's one of those things that anybody can develop and everybody can live by. Other than that, Ed, I am Brian.
I am Ed.
And this has been the Instinctive Influencers podcast. We thank you so much for listening. Have a great day. Don't forget to be a legend.